The desert stretched endless, a sea of sand and stone beneath the weight of a dying sun. Sheriff Cole Dawson rode slow, his chestnut gelding dragging weary hooves through the dust. It had been 3 days since he'd last seen a living soul. 3 days with only the crows for company, and the wind whispering old secrets through the canyons. Ahead, perched like a vulture on the bones of the earth, lay Silver Gulch. Once they said it was a bustling town, silver veins running through the nearby hills, money and whiskey flowing like spring water. But greed had dried the veins, and violence had drained the people. What was left now stood crooked and hollow, a skeleton of a place with sun-bleached boards and doors swinging loose in the hot wind. Yet rumors said Silver Gulch was not truly empty. Not anymore. Whispers told of a gang that had claimed it, men too mean for prison, too cruel for the hangman's rope. Some folks called them outlaws, others called them devils, but all agreed. Anyone who entered Silver Gulch after sundown never returned. Cole Dawson did not care for ghost stories. He'd heard enough around campfires to fill 10 lifetimes. Ghosts didn't put bullets in men's backs. Ghosts didn't burn down ranches or steal children from their mothers. Men did, and Cole had dedicated his life to stopping them. His badge, tarnished and scratched, gleamed faintly on his vest as he rode under the warped archway that once read, "Welcome to Silver Gulch." The gelding snorted, uneasy. Cole patted its neck. "Easy, boy. Just shadows here. Nothing more." But even he felt the weight pressing in. The silence was too thick, the streets too still. Not even a dog barked, not even a crow cawed. Just wind and dust, circling like vultures. He dismounted outside the saloon, tying his horse to a post that creaked as if it might snap in two. His boots crunched over broken glass. The windows were black, but a faint glimmer of lamplight flickered inside. Cole pushed through the swinging doors. They groaned like dying men. The air smelled of whiskey and rot. Dust danced in the shafts of fading light that spilled across empty tables. For a heartbeat, it looked abandoned. Then a chair scraped. A figure leaned forward out of the shadows. He was tall, lean, his face half hidden beneath a wide-brimmed black hat. His coat was long, frayed at the edges, but the revolver on his hip gleamed sharp, well kept. His eyes caught the lamplight, cold and gray. "Been waiting on you?" "Sheriff," the man said, voice low, like gravel dragging over steel. Cole stood still, hand resting near his holster but not yet drawing. "Funny, I wasn't aware I had an appointment." The man smiled, slow and mean. "Oh, you've had one for a long time. Just didn't know it yet." From the corners of the saloon, more shadows shifted. 4, maybe 5 men, each armed, each watching with hungry eyes. Cole's gaze swept the room, steady, calm. "You the reason they say this town's cursed?" The man chuckled. "Cursed? Nah. Folks just needed a story to explain why their friends never came back. Truth is simpler. Silver Gulch belongs to me. Name's Clayton Voss. Maybe you heard of me." Cole's eyes narrowed. He had heard the name. Clayton Voss, once a rancher's son out of Texas, turned killer after his family was murdered in a land dispute. Some said he started righteous, gunning for revenge. But somewhere along the trail he lost himself, became meaner than the men he hunted. By the time he rode into Arizona, he was wanted in 3 territories, his bounty higher than any outlaw in years. Cole let the name hang in the air a moment before answering. "I've heard. Never figured you for a man hiding in ruins." Voss's smile faltered, just for a flicker, then returned sharper. "Careful, Sheriff. You're outnumbered. This town ain't got no law, no church, no preacher, only me. And if you stay past sundown, it'll swallow you whole." Cole didn't flinch. He stepped farther into the saloon, boots thudding against warped boards. He took off his hat, set it on the counter, and leaned against it as if he were a man just stopping for a drink. "Funny thing," he said. "Every town I ride into, men like you say the same, that it belongs to them, that the law's dead, that no one will stand up. Yet somehow by the time I ride out, there's always one less gang, one less killer haunting the land." The room went quiet. Voss's men shifted, uncertain, but their leader only leaned back, tapping his fingers on the table. "You got spirit, Sheriff. I'll give you that. Maybe even guts, but guts don't beat numbers." Cole's hand brushed his revolver, but he didn't draw. Not yet. His voice was calm, steady. "Numbers don't win fights, nerves do. And I don't see many steady nerves in this room." Voss's eyes narrowed. the gray steel hardening. "Sun's going down. You'd best ride out while you can." Cole picked up his hat, set it back on his head, and turned toward the door. His boots echoed heavy in the silence. At the threshold, he paused. "You say this town belongs to you," he said, voice cold as the desert night. "Tomorrow we'll find out if that's true." Then he stepped out, the doors creaking shut behind him. Outside, the sun had dipped low, painting the sky in blood-red streaks. Shadows stretched long across the street. Cole untied his horse and led it toward the old sheriff's office. A building as broken and hollow as the rest, its windows shattered, its sign hanging crooked. Inside, dust lay thick on the desk. The iron bars of the jail cell were rusted, one bent wide enough for a man to slip through. But Cole swept the place clean, lit a lantern, and sat. From the shadows outside, he knew they were watching. He could feel Voss's men, lurking, waiting for him to leave. But Cole Dawson had never been one to run. As the desert night settled in, the howl of a coyote echoed across the empty streets. Cole loaded his revolver, laid it on the desk before him, and leaned back in the chair. His gray eyes closed, but his mind stayed sharp. Tomorrow, Silver Gulch would wake to gunfire, and the desert would decide who lived to see another sunset. The desert night was long in Silver Gulch, the kind of night where every board creak, every gust of wind against the shutters sounded like footsteps of a man creeping closer. Cole Dawson sat in the old sheriff's office, lantern burning low, revolver gleaming in the dim light. He hadn't slept. Not really. Men like him rarely did the night before a gunfight. Instead, his mind drifted back, as it always did when the silence grew too thick. Back to Kansas. Back to the small farm where he'd once dreamed of raising a family instead of chasing killers. He remembered the woman he'd loved, Anna, her laughter softer than spring rain. He remembered her hand slipping from his, her body buried after fever swept the plains. Cole had left Kansas with nothing but grief and a gun. By the time he pinned a badge to his chest, he had already lost everything else. The badge never gave him peace, but it gave him purpose. And in a land where the law was as thin as paper, sometimes that was enough. He opened his eyes. The lantern flame flickered. Outside, the first hint of dawn painted the sky in cold gray. Cole holstered his revolver, stood, and stepped into the street. Silver Gulch looked different in daylight. Not alive, not exactly, but less like a graveyard. Smoke curled from a chimney down the way. A curtain twitched in a second-story window. The town wasn't empty, just afraid. Cole walked slow down Main Street. His spurs clinked with each step. He stopped outside the general store, pushed open the door. Inside, an old man stood behind the counter, stooped and thin, eyes darting nervously. His hands trembled as he stacked tins of beans. "Mornin'," Cole said, voice steady. The old man jumped, nearly dropping a can. His gaze flicked to the badge on Cole's chest, then to the revolver at his hip. You shouldn't be here, Sheriff." "Ain't safe. Never is," Cole answered. He picked up a sack of coffee beans, dropped a coin on the counter. "How long Voss been running things?" The old man swallowed hard. "Year, maybe more. Came riding in with his men after the mine dried up. Said the town belonged to him now. Folks that didn't like it. They ain't here anymore. Dead?" The man's eyes clouded. "Some, others just gone. Disappeared. We don't ask questions no more." Cole studied him a moment. "You still here?" The old man's mouth tightened. "Where else am I gonna go? Ain't got kin. Ain't got money. Just trying to stay out of their way." Cole nodded once, then tipped his hat. "Stay inside today. Might be loud." The man's face paled, but he said nothing more. As Cole stepped back into the street, a child's face flashed at a window across the way, big eyes wide with fear but filled with curiosity. Cole gave a small nod, the kind only children understand, a promise that someone stood between them and the darkness. By noon, the heat had settled heavy over Silver Gulch. Cole stood outside the saloon again, hat low against the sun, revolver resting easy at his side. The streets were empty, everyone hiding, everyone waiting. The saloon doors swung open. Clayton Voss stepped out, flanked by his men. Sunlight caught the scar along his jaw, the cruel twist of his mouth. He moved like a man who believed the world belonged to him. "Well," Voss called, voice carrying down the empty street. Sheriff didn't run. "I'll admit, I half expected you to be a ghost by now." Cole's eyes never wavered. "I told you, we'll find out today who this town belongs to." Voss chuckled darkly. "You against 5 men? Odds don't favor you. Cole's voice was steady, cold. Odds don't matter, only bullets. For a heartbeat, the world stood still. Then Voss raised his hand. His men spread out across the street, rifles glinting in the harsh sun. Cole stepped forward, slow and deliberate. His boots stirred the dust, his shadow stretching long. "You want this town?" he said, voice ringing clear. "Then you'll have to take it over my dead body." A murmur swept through the shuttered windows. The townsfolk were listening. "Watching," Voss sneered. "That can be arranged." He snapped his fingers. One of his men, a hulking brute with a shotgun, stepped forward, aiming square at Cole's chest. But before the man could fire, Cole drew. His revolver blurred, faster than most eyes could follow. The crack of gunfire echoed like thunder. The brute stumbled, shotgun clattering to the dirt, his body dropping heavy beside it. Silence fell. Dust swirled in the air. Cole reholstered his revolver as calmly as if he'd just swatted a fly. "One less." Voss's eyes narrowed, rage flashing. He barked an order. His men raised their guns. Before they could shoot, windows burst open. Townsfolk, thin, weary, desperate, raised their own rifles and pistols. The old man from the store, a young woman clutching a shotgun too big for her frame. Even the child's father, face pale but hands steady. For the first time in a year, Silver Gulch had remembered what courage felt like. Cole's voice cut through the air, sharp as a blade. "This town belongs to its people. Not you, Voss," Voss snarled, eyes darting between the armed townsfolk. He hadn't expected them to rise. His grip tightened on his revolver. "You think you can scare me with farmers and shopkeepers?" He spat. "I've killed better men than you, Dawson. I'll kill you too." He drew, but Cole was ready. Their guns roared in the same breath, dust and smoke filling the street. When the haze cleared, both men stood. Voss's hat was gone, a bullet tearing clean through the brim. Cole's sleeve was ripped, blood streaking his arm. The duel had begun. The people of Silver Gulch held their breath. The outlaw gang shifted, uncertain, and in that narrow slice of silence, the town's fate balanced on the edge of a revolver's barrel. The sun beat down merciless, and the desert seemed to hold its breath. Tomorrow, Silver Gulch would remember this day as the moment everything changed.
The air was so still you could hear the buzz of flies over the body in the dust. The townsfolk stood frozen in doorways and windows, eyes wide, hearts pounding. On one side, Sheriff Cole Dawson, revolver steady despite the blood dripping from his sleeve. On the other, Clayton Voss, teeth bared in a wolf's grin, his gray eyes burning with fury. Asterisk, the standoff stretched long, like the desert itself. Asterisk, Voss's gang shifted uneasily, glancing at the armed townsfolk who had risen from their hiding places. A man coughed. A woman muttered a prayer. Somewhere, a baby cried. Asterisk, Cole's voice broke the silence, calm, sharp, final. Asterisk, you can walk away. Voss, leave this town and never come back. Asterisk, Voss spat into the dirt, his smile curling cruel. You think I came all this way to let a pack of sheep chase me off? I own this place. And when you're lying in the dust, they'll all crawl back where they belong. Asterisk, his revolver lifted. The world seemed to stop breathing. The crack of gunfire shattered the air. Cole rolled sideways, his revolver barking twice. One of Voss's men dropped, clutching his chest. Another fired wild into the crowd, but the bullet thudded into a wall, splinters flying. The townsfolk screamed, some ducking for cover, others firing back. The street erupted into chaos. Dust and smoke swirled as rifles thundered from windows. Voss's men scrambled for cover, but they were outnumbered now. Cole moved with the precision of a man who'd lived his whole life in gunfights, his revolver never missing its mark. Each shot echoed like a bell tolling for the dying. Voss himself ducked behind a trough, firing from cover. His bullets whistled past Cole's head, one grazing the sheriff's hat, spinning it into the dirt. Cole didn't flinch. He reloaded with calm, practiced hands, the metallic clicks sharp in the chaos. Sheriff. A voice cried. It was the old storekeeper, crouched by a barrel, rifle trembling in his hands. We can't hold M. You can, Cole called back, his eyes never leaving the fight. You stand together, they break, and for the first time in years, the people of Silver Gulch believed it. A young woman leaned out of a window, firing steady shots with a rusty rifle. A ranch hand dragged a wounded man to cover while still shooting with his free hand. Even the child's father, pale with fear, stood tall in the open street, shotgun booming. The outlaws had come expecting sheep. They found wolves. One by one, Voss's men fell. A gun dropped from nerveless fingers, clattering in the dust. A body sprawled across the trough, blood dripping into the dry earth. Another staggered back, clutching his throat, eyes wide with shock. At last, only Voss remained. His gray eyes burned with rage, but behind the fire there was something else now, a flicker of disbelief. His gang was gone. The town he thought broken now stood against him. Cole stepped into the open, revolver steady at his side. His hat was gone, his shirt torn, blood darkening the fabric, but his stance was unbroken. It's just you and me now, Voss, he said. Voss laughed, harsh and bitter. Then, I reckon, it ends the way it should. He rose from cover, both hands on his revolver, eyes blazing. The street went silent again. Dust hung thick, sunlight glaring through the haze. Two men faced each other in the heart of a dying town. Every soul watching, holding their breath, for a long moment. Time stretched. Then Voss moved. His gun flashed in the sun, faster than most could see. But Cole Dawson was faster still. His revolver barked once, twice. The first bullet struck Voss in the shoulder, spinning him sideways. The second tore into his chest. He staggered, dropping his gun, clutching the wound. For a heartbeat, he stood swaying, his gray eyes wide in shock. Then he collapsed into the dust, the life draining from him as the desert drank deep. Silence followed. Pure, heavy silence. The townsfolk slowly emerged, weapons lowered, eyes wide with disbelief. The old storekeeper limped into the street, his face pale but glowing with something long buried hope. Cole holstered his revolver. His breath came heavy, his body aching with every wound, but his eyes stayed steady. It's done, he said. The words spread like fire through the crowd. People sobbed. Some cheered weakly, others just clung to each other. For the first time in years, Silver Gulch felt alive. But Cole knew the desert wasn't done with him yet. He walked to Voss's body, looking down at the man who terrorized half the territory. Voss's eyes stared blank at the sky, the cruel smile gone. Cole knelt, closed them with a gloved hand, and stood. Asterisk, the child who had watched from the window earlier, stepped out now, clutching his mother's hand, his wide eyes fixed on Cole. Sheriff, are they gone? Asterisk. Cole looked at the boy, his face softening for the first time in days. They're gone. The boy nodded, gripping his mother tighter. By sundown, the town had gathered in the square. The bodies of Voss and his men were dragged to the edge of the desert, where the coyotes would finish what the guns had started. The people spoke in hushed voices, some crying, some laughing, all of them marveling that they had survived. Asterisk. Cole stood apart, leaning against a post, rolling a cigarette with slow fingers. His arm throbbed from the wound, but he paid it little mind. Asterisk. The old storekeeper approached. Sheriff, we don't know how to thank you. Asterisk. Cole lit the cigarette, the flame briefly lighting the hard lines of his face. Don't thank me. Thank yourselves. You're the ones who stood up. But if you hadn't, Cole shook his head, I won't always be here. Men like Voss will always crawl out of the desert, thinking they can take what ain't theirs. Next time, you'll need to fight without me. Asterisk. The old man swallowed, then nodded slowly. We will. Asterisk. Cole smoked in silence, watching as the townsfolk began sweeping up the shattered glass, boarding up broken doors, patching bullet holes. Silver Gulch was wounded, but it was alive. Asterisk. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in blood red and gold, Cole saddled his horse. Asterisk. The child ran up again, breathless. Sheriff, where are you going? Asterisk. Cole mounted, looking down at the boy. His gray eyes softened once more. There's always another town, always another fight. Asterisk. The boy frowned. But who'll protect us? Asterisk. Cole adjusted his hat, shadow falling over his scarred face. You will. Asterisk. And with that, he tugged the reins. The chestnut gelding turned toward the horizon. Asterisk. The townsfolk gathered, watching as Sheriff Cole Dawson rode away, his silhouette fading against the dying sun. Asterisk. Silver Gulch was theirs now, free at last. Asterisk. But out in the endless desert, the legend of Cole Dawson rode on a lone lawman, chasing shadows, bound not by hope of peace, but by duty. Asterisk. The desert had taken everything from him. All he had left to give was himself. Asterisk. And so he rode into the burning horizon, a man made of dust, steel, and silence. The sheriff, the ghost of the frontier.
If this tale stirred your soul, saddle up and subscribe. Don't forget to hit like, drop a comment, and share it with your folks. The campfire's always warmer with friends.